cutting edge of anomaly research. You are about to experience The Evidence with your host, 3D pioneer and image analyst with Mars X3D, D.W. Gannett.
Hello, and welcome to Mars X3D, where we are the home of no-nonsense, cutting-edge Mars anomalies presented in stereographic X3D. We are the only channel of its kind on YouTube. And yeah, we are in a backwater, and those that discover us and decide to learn X3D viewing are called Proud Weirdos. And if you're a Proud Weirdo, welcome back. If you're a new viewer, we're glad you're here. And look down below where you can learn X3D viewing in just a couple of minutes. It's really easy, and it's kind of magical. I think you'll enjoy it. That way you can join us periodically on the surface of Mars in full 3D stereo. A lot of fun. Okay, so here's what we do. We divide our finds up into oogies, objects of geological interest, things that are shaped by natural forces, perhaps, but might be an artifact of some kind. Not sure. Then we have artifact candidates, items which display some non-fractal properties, non-fractal being the signature of intelligent agency. But they don't have enough or are not clear enough to make a clear determination. And then we have full-blown artifacts, things that we have no hesitation to call artifacts of a vanished civilization. But the reason we call this channel The Evidence is because we don't tell you what to think. I'll make what I hope is informed speculation. But you know, in the end, you be the judge. If it's worth your consideration, great. And you know what? We'd love a like on the way out, and even a sub. Click that subscription button. That'd be great. But if you've got better things to do, hey, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you maybe sometime else. For the rest of you Proud Weirdos, let's dive in to some really unusual finds that have popped up just recently. Let's start out with something which is a perfect example of why 3D viewing is preferable when you're searching for anomalies. Now, this is a find by researcher Bob Friedman, and this is in no way meant to detract from Bob's work. He's a terrific researcher, but it is an excellent example of what I'm describing. Look there in the upper left, and we see what looks like a doorway with an apron to it sticking out. But let's zoom in on it and get a better look. Up close, we can see that this is a cleft between the rocks, and the sunlight is coming down. Perhaps there's an open space behind the main rock face at the top there, but there's sun shining down into that cleft. Now, it is a very even split, and who knows, maybe it actually is an entranceway. But that isn't an apron sticking out. It's light further back into the entrance. But let's move on. We have more oogies to look at. Here's one from my Hungarian buddy, Laszlo Shabalix. And this one's from Percy 766, South and North Views by Neb T. And we're looking at that targeted area inside the yellow circle. Isn't that an interesting piece? We see that chunk that's taken out of it on the left. It looks really even, and the rounded end on the right, and the even thickness, and even though all of that is rather compelling, well, it could possibly be something from a geological process. But here's one thing I'd like you to take a peek at before we leave this one. How about this nice wheel of Wisconsin cheese? I mean, look at it. Nice and round, even thickness, and 1/4 of it already cut out. I would love to find the crackers that go with this one. Here's another one from Laszlo from Percy 757 inside the aquamarine box. This one kind of tickles me. It looks like a trumpet lying there on its side. Even got a double row of 3 valve buttons there on the right. But obviously it's much too big, and obviously this is a geological process. But I am intrigued by that stone just to the left of it. It's, again, showing symmetry and even thickness and those divots taken out of it. So, who knows? There are all kinds of things that we might attribute to structural elements, try saying that with your dentures loose, structural elements and building blocks in the photos we're getting back from Percy. So, when you go to the live links below, there's plenty to see and discover yet, if you feel like checking it out. Here's one I stumbled across in Percy 766. The green arrow is pointing it out there right on the crest of the ridge. Now, to me, this is a very strangely shaped and symmetrical piece of stone that's carved out in a very symmetrical way, and again, symmetrical shape. And as you look around the slide in 3D, you will see other things that seem to be rather anomalous. Moving on now to our artifact candidates. Here's one from Curiosity's gigantic image of rock nest, and something pointed out by Sarah Runcie. It's inside the box there, and try to explain to me, if you will, how geological processes could create that squiggle and all those really sharp, even angles. I don't see it. It's an artifact of some kind, but like I say, it's not clear enough or definitive enough to say for sure. And before we leave Sarah's find, take a look at those 2 pieces pointed out by the arrows. Perfect 90-degree angles. Isn't that interesting? Here's another one found by Laszlo Shabalix in Percy 754, tucked away behind that boulder. That's a really nice scroll or roll, a cylinder that has a perfect circle and something in the center facing us, and it looks to be attached to something to the right. Could it possibly be the top, the capital on a pillar? Well, we don't really know, and it's definitely not natural. But once again, Laszlo finds things that other people overlook. He has a great eye for tiny things, but that often means that they tend to be blurry. So that's what mitigates against, calling this a straight-up artifact. And for those of you in Iowa, mitigate means it makes it kind of hard, okay? Here's something interesting pointed out by an avatar in Curiosity 3780, up there on the left on the hillside. I'm sure you've already noticed the cubical structure, the perfect 90-degree angles, the inner workings within each face, and that concentric circular disc leaning up against it. If this was a bit more clear, I'd go ahead and call this a straight-up artifact. But we're going to stay backed off from it a little bit now until we get better resolution in this particular image. And by the way, don't hold your breath on that one. NASA's in no hurry. Researcher Bob Friedman has been kind of busy lately, and he pointed this one out in Percy 766 up there in the right-hand corner. Isn't this an interesting one? I don't quite know what to make of it. It is obviously cubical and almost looks like a Picasso rendition in the Cubist style, and facing us in the shadows down at the bottom. See that nice little mouse hole? Who knows what that's for? Is this an artifact? I don't know. It's on another planet. It's alien, so by its very nature, we can't really understand what it is. But again, a great find by Bob Friedman. Here's one I ran across in Percy 763, up close and in the center. Well, this one just jumps right out at you. It's that hollowed out boulder or rock in front of us, really quite large, a couple of feet across. And notice the nicely shaped stone behind it, rather. And you know what? This is actually should be classified as an oogie, as an object of geological interest, because it doesn't have quite enough non-fractals present to call it an artifact. But this is in the artifact candidate category for the following reason. I'm sure you noticed this piece off to the left, and someone explained to me that circular opening with a rim and the diagonal piece running across it, set in basically a cubic container of some kind with evenly divided end on the left side, and then that's all kind of blended together with a rock, a stone, a machine, or something that has that interesting beadwork running, coming down at a right angle on the left and at the top as well. So this is definitely an artifact candidate. And let's take a close look at the other one before we leave. Besides the perfect curve on the stone in back of it, this really does look like it was purposely made for something, but it could occur as a geological construct as well. Pretty interesting. What do you think it is? This one was pointed out by Bob Friedman in Curiosity 3599. Inside the yellow target, let's get a little closer. The green arrow is pointing out the one that Bob Friedman shared with us. But before we zoom in on that, let's take a look at a couple of other things that are worthy of note in this image. Did you notice this stone with the right angles on it? And has what appears to be either an oval or a circle seen at an angle engraved in the top. That's interesting. Is that a tile from a walkway or something that was on a wall? Or is it just geology? And look at the rigidly perfect right angles, rectangular structure of this block. And again, more perfect right angles, not only under the green arrow, but proceeding to the right of that block as well, almost a framework. And we really can't ignore this other perfectly rectangular and beautifully right-angled block staring us right in the face. And now back to this beautiful find by Bob Friedman. It looks like a cornice. It looks like the corner of a building. The top of the building would be, of course, a piece to the right, and then the carving, and then a lateral line, and then another perhaps section of a pillar or building block just to the left of that, all beautifully shaped and formed, and undoubtedly what I would call an artifact candidate. And now it's time for our straight-up artifact, at least that's what I'm calling it, shared with me this past week by my buddy Laszlo. I'm calling this Laszlo's lintel, and this was found in Curiosity 3798 through 3800, another beautiful GMAC by my friend Neville Thompson. So let's move in on the box. I'm going to let your eyes play over this image for a few seconds and see if you can pick out what we're going to be talking about. Focus your attention within this lateral area and let your eyes move slowly left to right and see what you can identify within this area. Going with the green arrows, moving from left to right, a couple of things I found intriguing about this is that sphere that appears to be on the end of a rod or at the end of a wall section. And then, of course, that center arrow is pointing at an enfolded 90-degree angle piece, kind of a Greek motif there, attached to a rectangular block. And then just to the right of it, you can see a circular opening with an indentation in it, almost a cylinder like Laszlo's scroll that we looked at a little bit earlier. And while we're at it, did you notice this up in the right-hand corner? A very carefully shaped block, in my opinion. And finally, a nice close-up zoom of Laszlo's lintel. And that, folks, what you're looking at is an artifact. I don't want anybody to be left out. So here's a bonus section of what we call Wiggle 3D, so everyone can see it. Now, if you're having problems with X3D viewing, I get it, some people do. This is a pale imitation of the real deal, but at least it does give you a bit of an idea. If you saw something you liked today, would you please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment? It really does help the algorithms here on YouTube. And you know, I would love it if you decided to subscribe and become one of our proud weirdos. Please think about supporting this work. Click the join button. Find out how you can gather undying fame and glory for less than 10 cents a day. Now, to all you proud weirdos out there, you know who you are. Stay safe and stay weird. This is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D. Be well.